I'm delighted to welcome Merete Bilde, a policy advisor at the European External Action Service of the European Union in Brussels, to this new dialogue series. Religions for Peace is initiating these dialogues with various multilateral institutions to provide better understanding to our global multi-religious movement on the work that you're doing and your office is doing. To start with, I would like to invite you to share with us a little bit about your position, about your work, and the work of your office, please.
Well, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to explain what it means to work as a policy advisor on religion development and diplomacy inside the EU. I work in the part that deals with the foreign policy, so the external policies of the European Union. And from where I sit, I generate ideas, analysis, and recommendations that are lifted up to the hierarchy. So I sit directly under the Secretary General and try to, in the field that is mine and with the focus that we have, to provide concrete ideas and initiatives to what we can do in order to play our role in making sure that we are not blindsided on any of the things that matter in the world.
Thank you so much. Sounds very interesting, and I would like to ask in the next question, what is the connection between this work that you just described and your partnering with faith-based civil society actors? And why do you think, for example, it is important to partner with faith-based civil society actors?
So from a European perspective, we may have been a little bit late to wake up to realize the role that also religion plays in terms of shaping people's lives, shape people's belief, and the stories they tell about each other and their neighbors. But within the last, I would say, 10, 15 years, we have done a tremendous footwork to try to make sure that we do not walk through the world with secular blind spots, but that we do navigate the world as it is, with all its complexity and with sufficient religious literacy to know with whom we can engage, on what we can engage, and see who we can partner with as we go forward. This has been a collective challenge, not just for the EU as an institution in Brussels, but also for our member states. And to that effect, we have set up some years back now a network of diplomats like me who work on this so that we can stand shoulder to shoulder and learn together. And in this network of diplomats, we have currently about 20 colleagues. And this is sort of the hub where we learn from each other, as I said. The network has a very long name. It's called the Transatlantic Policy Network on Religion and Diplomacy. We have a web page where all our policy briefs are put on. And we are very happy to have had also the UN as member of that network, because it's very important that this is a role where we look to what is done from different perspectives. No one way is the best. Each member state have their own approach. So this transatlantic network is one that we set up to make sure that we learn from each other and that we equip each other and our respective ministries to better understand the world, the religious dynamics, how also religion is sometimes used for very political purposes. And see how we can construct and define initiatives of partnership. We have now been doing this work for the best of 5 years in a formal setting. And I'm very excited as we go forward, because I think there is, especially now, some important lessons for us to learn.
Allow me to draw a connection to the current situation we are facing globally at the moment. We are currently living in a time of a global pandemic, and it has become clear already that not a single sector has been left unaffected. Please share with us from your perspective, your insights on the effect COVID-19 has had on your work, and if you see any specific value to partnering with faith-based actors in the times of COVID-19?
I'm very happy to answer that question because it's very much at the forefront of what everybody talks about and thinks about, also because of the depth of the crisis, including in societies that do not have the same kind of resilience as the ones that we have the pleasure of living in. Prior to this crisis, we set up a exchange platform on the role of religion in society. Not so much because we're enthusiastic or in love with religion, but simply because we realize that religion comes in many shades and forms, and that we need to acknowledge that that very often religion at the grassroots level can hold some very important lessons for us. So with that in mind, we set up this network where we will connect civil society actors, including the faith-based, and that's the novelty for us. So it's not just about religion with religious folks, but it's really of seeing how these different civil society actors come up with suggestions of how to live together in difficult times, such as, for instance, in this COVID world that we are entering. Much of this has to do, of course, with living together in terms of different minority-majority settings, and how do we fare in terms of acceptance of the other, tolerance and respect of diversity. And if there's one thing that we've seen with the COVID pandemic, is that the flare-up of stigmatization and scapegoating is one that is very real and that affects us all. That is a field where we will be looking to see how we can partner both at the grassroots level through the initiative I just mentioned, but also with international partners such as the UN and Religions for Peace, to see how we can come up with concrete suggestions to make sure that we each play our role and assume our respective responsibilities against this danger.
Thank you so much. The next question maybe goes a little bit also on a personal level, and I would like to ask, what do you find most inspiring, or in times maybe also most frustrating, about your work with religious communities or faith-based actors?
I have been extraordinarily lucky to have had the privilege to work on this for as long as I have. Normally, we diplomats are supposed to circulate in and out every 3 to 4 years. But for some reason, people must have forgotten about my existence, because it's now 15 years that I have been doing this. And it has been thanks to the amazing people that I have met on my way that has helped generate the ideas, that have helped dig out the field for where we can do more together, that I am and managed to do what I've done today. The fact that we have a transatlantic network on this is very much owing to that. The fact that I could be helpful within my own institution to create this new Erasmus on religion is also testimony to that. I meet every day people who I would not meet if I were doing a regular desk job, if I may say so. It brings richness, but it's also constantly a reminder of how little we all know. And the more you discover, the more you realize things are more complex. And so that can be frustrating, that the certainty of thinking you know it all of a sudden disappears, and that you have to navigate yourself a field where sometimes you have, what a friend once said, a lot of good religion, but a tremendous amount of bad faith, that you know who to engage with and you know who to trust. But with the right kind of religious literacy, people literacy, and female intuition, I think we sort of get there in the end. But so I would say it's mostly on the positive side, but this awareness that religion is not just a static thing. It comes, as I said, in many shapes and forms, and it's not free of politics. And that's where I think we have learned a lot, not to just take the package value of what comes through our email boxes, but to always make sure that we ask the right questions politely, but we ask them.
Thank you very much. Finally, I would like to offer you the opportunity to say a few words in your own conclusion about your work, about the current situation. Maybe there's something you envision for the future, or there's something you decry and criticize, and something that requires transformation from your point of view.
That is a huge question, and I'm sure you don't have unlimited airtime. But one of the things that makes me hopeful is that by opening up our eyes and minds to a broader understanding of what it means to live in an inclusive way, to live in a peaceful, a truly peaceful way, in a way whereby security is not just a question of military might, but a strong social contract where people feel closeness with their governors, a world where there's less corruption, less injustice. That is something that I think motivates me to get out of bed in the morning, that the world after also the coronavirus is one that will be reformed and will take into account that we need something which is more sustainable, both in terms of being more green, but also in terms of being more truly inclusive and tolerant of each other.
Thank you so much, Merete Bilde. This was extremely inspiring and also helpful and insightful for our global multi-religious movement to better understand what your office is doing, particularly, and what the European External Action Service of the European Union is doing. Thank you so much for partaking in this dialogue series, and we wish you all the best in these trying times.
Thank you. You too.